welcome to our tutorial on Wild Thing. Wild Thing, I think I love you. Okay, no singing cat, okay, got it. So there's a couple of different ways to come into Wild Thing, which is a really beautiful heart-opening pose. We're going to lift the Anahata chakra, we're going to open up into the hips, we're going to find strength in our upper body and that beautiful gracefulness that comes with opening up into this posture. So again, there's a couple of ways to go in here, and I'm going to show you two today, one from side plank and the other one from scorpion pose, originating from our downward facing dog. So let's start in downward facing dog, tucking the toes, pressing up, and we're going to lift the left leg. So at this point in time, my hips are square down to the mat, and I'm just finding my feet here, my 3 feet, 2 hands and 1 foot. So now I'm going to take scorpion pose, which is where I'm going to actually bend the knee, pull that left heel in towards my glutes, and I'm going to start to open up the hips. I can even gaze underneath my armpit, find that little challenge there, check if I've worn deodorant. And now I'm going to gaze towards the hands, and I'm gently going to start to lift that left hand up from the mat as I roll over and place my left foot down, really reaching and stretching through. Lastly, releasing that hand, gazing towards the fingertips and finding my Wild Thing. Breathing here, lifting the heart, lifting the hips. Inhale, lifting that hand back up and coming all the way back up, pressing into our 3-legged dog and returning that down to our downward facing dog. So that is our variation one. If we're going on the other side, I'm going to lift my right leg, square the hips, tuck that heel, open the hip, gaze underneath my right arm, checking my balance here, checking to see if I've worn deodorant, and start to open up into the hips. This twist where we're opening up into the hips here and allowing that opening to happen as we move into our Wild Thing. Gazing back towards the fingertips, opening up the heart space, and then eventually coming back, pressing back up, and coming down into our down dog, and then coming all the way down to hero's pose. So Wild Thing can be quite a challenging posture. So I really would, ideally you'd really like to do quite a few sun salutations and some hip opening work to make sure that you are going to not only enter this posture safely, but that the body is warmed up so that you can enter the posture. And the thing about yoga is, like, if we go into stuff cold, you know, there might be 1% of yogis that can just enter that posture cold. But in reality, it's all of those little steps that we do to build our practice, the hip opening work. So never neglect your basics, warrior 1, 2, 3, side angle pose, wide-legged forward fold, all of these things that enable you to open the hips and open the heart space, you know, as you lift and draw the chest away or the ribs away from the hips, opening that space and giving you room to explore some of these deeper postures. So if the full Wild Thing isn't in your practice just yet, there are some variations that you can work through. So just like we did in our side plank, I'm going to slide this right knee forward, stacking my wrist, elbow, shoulder, and I'm going to open up here. What I am going to do is take this right foot back ever so slightly, and you can make a little bit of a hand adjustment here, and you can start to open up towards the back of the room. So instead of just taking this posture to the side, and the reason that we've got this foot behind us here is so that we can actually explore a little bit of opening here, but without having that extreme balance on that right hand side. Then you can exhale and come back down to your hero's pose. So the next way to get into our Wild Thing is actually from side plank. So again, this is a slightly more challenging transition. So if you did want to build this into your practice, so I'm just going to come into downward facing dog. So from our tabletop, tuck the toes, press back downward facing dog. I'm going to slide forward into my plank. I'm going to realign my hand, lifting my left arm high. I'm going to bring that foot up to the knee, and I'm going to start to open from here, now taking that foot behind and finding that lovely opening into our wild thing. And I can come back in the same way, finding the strength in this pose. Exhale, back down, and take a vinyasa. Pressing back, downward facing dog. Ooh. It's such, when you go through this posture, this asana, it's such a wonderful feeling. When you're in it, it might feel like this enormous challenge. And that's great too, because going through the process, you're overcoming all these little hurdles. I think I can, maybe I can't, oh my goodness, I'm here. And so you overcome all these little personal hurdles in the journey towards Wild Thing. And then you have this ultimate expression of open heart and open hip. So there's a whole lot of joy and the gift of love in that space, giving yourself to the universe. So I really invite you to go on a journey and explore your Wild Thing, whether you're just starting out and you're going to take one of those beginner transitions into Wild Thing, or if you're going to go the whole enchilada and maybe even take it to wheel pose from your Wild Thing. And we can go into that tutorial a little bit later in the program. So I look forward to seeing you on our next tutorial.